All right, so hello and welcome to a special episode we're running right now of Trollin HGC. We are joined by Tetcher. We're gonna go ahead and have a little chat and walk through some Open Division playoff scenarios for EU. So I'm not even gonna go over where you can find me yet. We're gonna actually jump right to Tetcher and say, hey man, how's it going?
It's going fantastic. I've come off China today. I've got a new laptop, which I've been playing with all day. So I'm feeling pretty good.
Cool. Bahgz, how are you doing?
Doing well, man. Got my Roll20 jersey. Finally came in the mail today. Tweeted that out a little earlier.
Yeah, man.
You comfy fit.
You got to stand up if you want people to see that, though.
You can see the logo.
There you go.
Pretty synonymous.
Right?
Yeah.
The logo on the sleeve. Little
Nice.
brand recognition.
Question for you. Are you just a fan of the eSports team or of the sponsor as well?
Just the esports team. I've
Fair
never
enough.
done D&D in my entire life. We've talked about it with like a couple of the WoW buddies to try and put together like some, I don't know how it all works, but like some sort of adventure. But I'm sounding really ignorant right now. But I don't know if I have time. It's a struggle as it is. So
That's fair.
I drag him through all these esports games that he has to watch just for Heroes of the Storm. That I there's no time left for him to play games, man.
I have a similar issue where I do play D&D quite a bit. So therefore all my time is taken up watching HGC or playing D&D, and then I have overall 8 hours total a week to do other things.
Right. Well, and that's the struggle, right? Like, if you consider, once you start adding on Chinese games and the Open Division, it's like there's literally zero time to do anything else.
Job and all that stuff. So
Right.
there's plenty of things to do.
It's a struggle. The struggle is real, that's for sure. All right, so you know what? We were gonna jump into some other stuff, but let's start with how did you even get involved with streaming, casting, and Heroes?
Okay, so I never got involved with streaming. That's
Fair enough.
the dichotomy, due to the fact that where I live in England, which is apparently a first world country, but because I live in the countryside of that, like my neighbors are alpacas currently. That gives you an idea of literal alpacas. I live next to a farm. But I have 0.3 megabit per second upload.
Oof.
The only reason I can have camera on right now is because everything else in the house is off. I can't have for China a stream open and my camera on, or Heroes open and my camera on. I basically have the option of doing one thing and nothing else.
Oof.
So I've never been. The struggle is real. I've never been able to stream.
Okay.
And I didn't even. We're going to rewind very far back to 2011. Well, not too far back, but to 2011, where I did not know what the word esports was, and I was in secondary school, failing every subject that wasn't drama, and theatre studies. And as such, it turns out that theatre studies is not a good enough reason to keep you in a school for. So I got kicked out. So it was literally like, okay, you know what? I'm going to go to college, and I'm going to go to college just for theatre. But the schools have already started, so I'm going to have a year off, and I'm going to play a lot of video games. At the time, I was watching a small-time YouTuber. You may have heard of him, Total Biscuit.
Okay.
Was watching a lot of his videos in general.
Yep.
And on the end of one of his videos, he goes, "You could also check out my StarCraft 2 channel over at what was it, Cynical Halibut or something like that. I can't remember what his second channel was called. Total Halibut, that was it. And I was like, what is this StarCraft that he speaks of? So I jumped over to there, watched a couple videos. He was casting the Iron Squid at the time, and I thought, this is great. I can do that. So I went out and bought a copy of StarCraft 2, played for about 4 days, found an online tournament that was happening, a UK-only tournament, and just messaged them and was like, I want to cast this, would you let me? And for some reason, those absolute freaks of nature said yes. Worst decision they've ever made. But they let me cast it, and I was, as expected, for 4 days playing the game, garbage. But I knew I was garbage, so I literally just went off and played the game for months, and eventually became not a good, but an adequate caster, to the point where I got to cast Gfinity was my top event for StarCraft. And that was with Caldor and people like that, which is where I met Caldor, actually. at Gfinity 3 in the UK, where there were many StarCraft games happening. At that point, I was burned out completely of StarCraft. So it was literally like, okay, I guess I'm going to quit esports because nothing's happening. I might go play Hearthstone, I guess, a little and see what I could do there. And then this announcement came out. I was at Meltdown Esports Bar in London, and I was watching a BlizzCon. I was watching BlizzCon there for the BlizzCon party. And this trailer came on, and I've been playing other MOBA that I'm not going to mention in my spare time, just as a fun thing with friends in real life. And this trailer came on at BlizzCon, and it was for their new game, which I think at the time was still called Blizzard All-Stars. I can't remember if it was actually Heroes of the Storm at that point.
Yeah.
But my reaction was, wait, this is like this other game, but Blizzard, and looks better. I'm going to play this. Oh my God, it doesn't come out for a year. So I basically moved over to Hearthstone and just cast that for a year purely so I could stay in the scene, enjoying Hearthstone very much so. Which how familiar are you with the Hearthstone scene?
Less than
A little bit
bags.
on off. Are you aware of Raven, the Hearthstone caster?
No.
Okay.
I'm not.
Well, basically, I was casting a fair amount of Hearthstone in the UK for the Insomnia events, which happened just waiting for Heroes to go into alpha.
Right.
Just waiting for that moment. Waited a long time. Got to an event. This was the last event before Heroes was going to come out, and I was like, okay, gonna get this one done. Gonna have a brilliant time. Got to the grand finals, and I get approached by the tournament organizer. He was like, Chris, we need to talk. And I was like, oh God, what have I done now? Because I've got in trouble with him before for drinking some kind of beverage on stream and being off stream and being audible on another stream.
Oh, jeez.
Whoops.
Yes. But I was dragged aside and it was like, Chris, we need you to host the esports stage. What happened to the old host? Doesn't matter. And I won't go into actually what did happen to him there. There were disagreements. And I was like, who the hell's going to... And they were like, so you need to find someone else to cast. And like, who do you recommend? Raven. So that's how Raven is currently a caster in Hearthstone.
That's awesome.
Due to everyone in the room at the time saying, get Raven in. He's charismatic. He's good at the game. He's at the tournament.
Right? You
Get
can
him
walk
in.
right in and do it.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't have a suit. He literally just had a sort of polo shirt, which is all he had with him at the time, because he didn't expect to cast.
Right.
But he was just bunged straight onto the desk. So at that point, Heroes comes into alpha. I am in at this point in technical alpha due to a show I did called Caster Challenges. It's not aged well due to mic quality, but if you've ever watched Whose Line Is It Anyway, or a show like that,
Yep.
it was that with casters. Like I had Total Biscuit, I had In Control, people like that on there, all the MLG guys, and it was stuff like, okay, continue casting, but all your words must start with the letter B.
Oh, jeez.
And so you get total. There's a video out there of Total Biscuit going bumbling, burglings, brass spaces, which is the best, quite frankly. But I got invited due to that. Started releasing casting videos, which Blizzard were very against. I don't know if you're around for that, where they were like, please don't release casting videos. This is alpha. We don't want the game out in this state.
Right.
And no one listened. There was another caster who was going around, who I will not name again, but who had really dirty tactics, who was basically going around telling the casters if they were to release casting videos, then they would never be hired. And then 2 days later was announced to be casting like the biggest thing that Heroes had at the time.
Really?
So yes, that caster is no longer in the scene like properly, so that's not so much of an issue. But at the beginning, there were some dirty tactics employed.
Wow.
Little
But after
Heroes
that,
alpha drama there.
Heroes alpha drama. There you go. A little bit there. No one else really knows that outside the casting scene. But they had I just cast with at the time Technolink, who has moved on to other games, and GXX Shock, who still I think makes videos and is also one of the most handsome people I know, and was really charismatic as a caster. I get a message from him saying, "Hey, DreamHack Bucharest are going to have an offline Heroes tournament. They've asked me to cast it, and they said, who do you want as a co-caster? And I suggested you. Are you in?" And I was like, why do you have to ask that question? Yes, absolutely. I want to cast a DreamHack.
Right.
That is Dream. I've cast UK lads up to this point. DreamHack is Dream. It's in the name. so I'm excited about this. I'm in contact with the people. We're getting hyped. We're talking about them about what's the best way to do this, because there wasn't really a proper observer feature that worked really well. Like, it was there, it was just sort of iffy at the time.
Right.
So we get sent I'm getting prepared for this. It's a couple weeks away. And then I get a message on Skype from Caldor. And he's like, so just out of interest, are these dates free for you? I can't talk about it. I've been asked to cast an event, and they want you to, and they asked who I wanted to cast with, and I said you. Would you have those dates free? And I was like, interesting. Those dates coincide with DreamHack Bucharest. And it turns out they'd messaged Caldor on Facebook, and he'd missed it.
Ah.
And they invited GXX Shock because he never replied.
Right.
And unfortunately, Caldor eventually found it, messaged them back, and GXX Shock and me at the time got kicked, and it was basically moved straight to Caldor of who do you want to cast with, and I got picked again. So
well, that's lucky, right?
It's a ringing endorsement, which I was very chuffed with at the time.
Right.
And it was literally just built up from there. Just the fact that I couldn't stream, I was absolutely 100% reliant on the kindness of strangers. Caldor, Kendrick Swish, and Grubby up to this date are the only Techno Lake, GXX Shock, all the people before that, Hoss, American player / British person, but American player, Heroes of the Dawn and stuff.
Right.
I would not have a career if it were not for those people, because they simply say they could solo cast, they could cast with each other.
Right.
They're like, yeah, we'll cast with you. Come on, just jump on. That's it. Just come on a mic. Because I can't cast without someone else streaming. And Caldor, he didn't need that. He already had an established fan base, an established career, but he wanted to cast with me. And Kendrick and Grubby didn't have to say yes to casting with me for Open Division in China, but they have chosen to. So I'm eternally grateful to those people of the fact I have a career, and that's all that happened. I just joined in everything I could possibly cast that I could get away with, and just worked my way up from there. Was ignored for a very long time, but am now at a point of minor stability.
There you go.
That's awesome.
Still terrible internet.
That's gonna be well. I feel you on the living in the rural area of the world. Similar struggle up here. I'm in upstate New York, so like I tell people, a lot of people, they're like, "Oh, you're from New York. What's it like in the city?" I'm like, "No." I'm like,
not that part of New York. New York is a state, not a city.
Right. So we're in upstate New York here, and it's really rural up here. Like, you want to go to a Walmart Supercenter, you're driving at least a half hour. So
jeez.
but the our internet's a little bit better. You know, it was probably about 10 years we got high speeds. We were a little late to the scene on that, but you know, we're getting there. I get 5 up now, which is it's not the gigabit internet that LiQuiD's working with, but it's
I'm still working with my 0.2.
See, there you go.
That's rough. That's rough. I do. All right. So Aspera82 in chat just asked if you still visit Meltdown, but like even before that, I want to go back. Like, that place is real, because that sounds like an awesome place, like an esports bar in London. Sounds like a great place.
I was going there since the beginning. Like, I did a couple events there because before I did casting, I basically was just trying to make ends meet. So I did team management for, I can remember most of the teams, TLR, The Last Resort, and Animate. I think those are the only 2. But I did a team management for them, and they would have press events for sponsors. Like, had a sponsor event at Meltdown and went to the launch event and stuff like that.
Okay.
So have been there since the start, where they had like no designs on the walls and it looked rough. But now it is a place. It is an esports bar. There's one in Paris and there's one in London, and I think there's another one, but I'm not sure. But there are a couple esports bars around. I haven't been there in a while, but I do pop to London every now and again to visit an old friend, Jorasar, from the StarCraft scene, who's still awesome and doing stuff in Overwatch at the moment. So I might come down there again in the future. It's just when I next go see Jorasar and ask him if he wants to go.
Cool.
Or if there's another event in London. Who knows?
Or there's an event in London, right?
Yeah.
Who knows what we'll see in 2018?
Or right now, there's like rumors of like, in case you can't tell by my shirt, I'm a wrestling fan.
Yep.
There is rumors of like 2019 WrestleMania being in the UK, so I'm like, if that's in London, there's nothing that can stop me. So
You and
that's just
Calaris
a
will
rumor
probably
anyway. We'll see.
Calaris will be on that same train coming down there to
But
see it
yes,
too.
we'll be. We'll probably try and find seats or something. That'd be cool.
That would be pretty cool. All right, so let's jump into some EU Open Vision stuff. So we left it kind of open. Excuse the pun. And like real quick, I'm just gonna real quick so everybody's on the same page. Just list off the top 8 because the playoffs will only be the top 8 teams out of the EU Open Division. I think you guys had 7 cups in NA. We got lucky and had an 8th cup because Gosu had an issue at one point. So
I was confused there.
yeah, it's really weird. All right, but in first place we have Leftovers, and then down through 8 we have Bushido Esports, Run It Down, Shiseisen, Always Lucky, Polska Pamieta, Eat Kebab Bro, and Myth Legion Hots.
Good pronouncing of Shiseisen, by the way.
You know what? So
It's a funny
interestingly, a listener tweeted in and said, "Here's how you actually pronounce that." And I'm like, "Cool." And I took that correct. And like that was probably when I think they finished first. No, they finished second that week. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't recognize these guys. And so yeah, thank you. But
I actually had a similar issue where it was my first time casting them, and Grubby was just ripping me to pieces of how I pronounced them. So I went away between day 1 and day 2, got a German friend to teach me how to pronounce it, and practiced for like an hour that night before the next Open Division comes, so I could say it right or right-ish.
I was leading up to that show that night. I was rereading his tip on how to say it for like 20 minutes, and like just saying it out loud to get used to it. It's an interesting name. But
It is.
all right.
Do you know what it means?
No, what does it mean?
Blunderbuss, isn't it?
Yeah,
Something
it's
Oh,
the,
that's
it's the it's the German name for the Hunter's Blunderbuss talent. It kind of just means metal gun or something like that, but it's Hunter's Blunderbuss.
That's right. I think he told us that in that tweet, or someone
Yep.
else did after
Yeah.
that. Yeah. All right. So I want to ask you about the bottom 2 teams first, because I went through and I like quickly added who had first place, second place, third place, and the bottom 2 teams have actually never broken the semifinals at all. Myths
Correct.
Legion Hots and Eat Kebab Bro. Do you think these are like straightforward? Because it's typical top 8 type play. So Leftovers plays Myth Legion Hots and Bushido plays Eat Kebab
Yeah.
Bro. Is that like 2? You guys are done. We got a free pass, or you think
It's
there's a chance?
It's definitely not a you are done, you have a free pass. But for starters, it's for the beginning shows how cool the Open Division format is. These are teams that never won, but they never won the thing, but are still able to get their chance to show up on the day because of consistency, just showing up and performing reasonably well in the cups.
Right.
But the fact is, both these teams do have some pedigree. Like, this is the joy of Europe. We have so many players and so many teams that you'll be going through, and like Kebab Bro, let's take them as an example. Shibli, to start off with, it's a full Polish team. Shibli played at ESL Leicester
Yeah.
for one of the pre-BlizzCon events. He played for Silenced Monkeys.
Yep.
So he's already done previous HGC events and previous events of this caliber. So there's good pedigree there, full language team again. There's still a chance for them, but the other team, for example, I have a slight bias towards. For starters, they have 2 players who have been around since almost the very start. Siska and Taluf
Okay.
have been around since almost the very start. But I have a slight biasness towards Myths Legion a little bit due to the fact that they have Durandir playing for them. And
Okay.
I had 2 very short stints of attempting to go pro. The first time was with Shwimpy and Wubby on a team called Team Tomorrow Big. They left the team to actually become big. So they actually left. They joined what was like 3 out of the 4 members of Fnatic, I believe, and
Okay.
eventually came to that roster after picking up the guys from Pirates in Pajamas.
Right.
The other time I did it was with Durandir. He was
Okay.
one of the people who I attempted to go pro with, and the fact he's gone so far is brilliant, and I absolutely love it.
That's awesome.
It's awesome. That's like, it's really cool to get that little backstory on players and teams from like, I mean, that you just don't get really the limelight that a lot of the other
Right.
top tier Open Division teams do.
Well, and that shines a light on something that we talk about all the time, especially when we're comparing EU to NA for Open Division or just talking in general.
Yeah.
Is that EU has such a huge player base that's like good at this game.
You go through like the open division right now, and even though we already have like a HGC with 80 players in it, we already have that. But if you go through the open division, you'll still find names that you know and recognize because
Right.
they've already been to offline events.
Right. It's
Because
crazy.
that's how wide the player base is and how close the skill gap is.
And that's what, like, honestly, that's what makes. I was watching the Crucible from phase 1, and like I'm jumping up and down as Zealots won and as TGG won, because it was like, dude, this is what HGC was made to have, right? Here's an amateur team that didn't qualify originally, has gotten their way through the open division and displaced 2 regular teams. Like, that was amazing.
It is, and that's a fantastic feeling for not only the teams, but as someone who you're not supposed to be biased, but you also hear the open division casters.
Right.
You feel for those teams after having physically followed that journey with full casting almost for months at this point, and then seeing them succeed. It's a double-edged sword because you're so happy for them, but it sucks because you're not going to get to cast them anymore.
Right. That's a good point.
It's like watching like a kid go through like school, right? And then they graduate.
They move out, and it's like, oh man.
I had
like,
fun
good
with
job,
you.
But God damn it.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm going to keep this bottom up kind of thing going because I think that works for this.
Okay.
Polska Pamięta is in 6th place, and Always Lucky is in 5th place.
Okay. So Polska, despite having a slightly different roster, they made it to the semi-finals in the last playoffs.
Okay.
And the final words of Team Zealots before they vanquished them were, "You deserve to go to the Crucible. It sucks this is single elim."
Right.
Those were the final words of the team that would go on to perform better in HGC before knocking out Polska Pamięta. They have a slightly different team, but we still have Rajuf, who's played in multiple offline events. Shehu, part of the legendary G2 lineup back from 2015-ish, 14-ish maybe.
Right.
But they're still strong. They're still very strong. But it's the question of whether they're strong enough to make it with their current roster. Their old roster was sublime, but it's slightly changed around. They still have immense talent. I would love to see more Polish talent in HGC right now. Well, they have a very tough first matchup, I will say, though.
Right. They have to face Run It Down up in the first round.
Correct. Which is one of my personal favorites to win it due to, for starters, 2 members of... I'm going to sort of skip ahead here,
That's
sorry.
okay. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
They have 2 members of Be Genius, for starters, a team that was already in HGC. They have Nasty, who is considered a incredible player by most. Cass, who is definitely a crowd favorite due to Surprise Butcher that we actually saw in the open division and just really solid play anyway. And Lampy, who I have to be biased to because UK player and is another player who competed at Leicester for the Sandwich Monkeys.
So I have to ask a question, and I'm going to interrupt my own flow here because you brought up Lampy. So we noticed that in Cup 7, Tix and Lampy changed teams.
Yes.
And I was looking frantically, and I could not find the rules. But how did that happen? Like, do you know? Like, what?
The teams change so often, it is very difficult to keep up with outside of the main HGCs. Like, I knew about the Athero going to Expert beforehand.
Yep.
But that's about as much as I was able to really learn with this. I knew a little bit about when Mopsio moved to Zealots as opposed to being on Polska.
Okay.
So yeah, it changes around quite a lot, but the majority of the time, it's quite hard to keep up with the open division team changes. And yeah, hashtag Poland remembers.
This is what's interesting to me. So like in NA, Gosu's very strict about you made a change, you have to create a new roster, and we saw that with
there is a specific rule about it. You must have at least 3 members of your original team to keep your points.
Right. And so here was the weird thing. And that's what I thought that was the case, but then I went and looked. Hold It Down and Held It Down were only 1 player different. So it was weird why they ended up doing that in NA, and I still want to get more into that, but okay. Moving on.
We'll have to get in the ear of someone from Gasu because they swapped out Mac for one day, and it was they had to reset all the
they
points.
redid it.
That is, I don't know if it's for one day, but if you do swap out you're not allowed a substitute who's not on your team sheet. That is 100% against the rules. If you have a player disconnect, you can't get a substitute for them.
Right.
I know that's in the rules.
Which is why both Tix and Lampy changed teams before Cup 7 started. Right. All right, so that was Polska and Run It Down. So then we have Always Lucky playing Shizeisen.
Correct. Again, a more Eastern European team for Always Lucky. Very solid players. Stork, for example, and Kuri-chan have been really solid forever. Basically, they've always been in that top spot, but have never taken the top spot. Same with Unprepared, actually. Even actually, the entire team. Just look at that team, and it's like, this is a team that could do well. They've been on, like, I think probably 3 different rosters. What was that team? Oh, Virtus Pro, that's it. Yep. They've probably been on like 2 or all of them between them have probably been on every Virtus Pro roster.
Okay.
Which gives you an idea, which they consistently qualified for for European Cups.
Right.
So again, another team of huge potential, who have a very good chance, I would argue, against Shizeisen, but I think that's going to be one of our more closer matches. Shizeisen, again, made up of German players. You have Blade, who very solid player again, very fun to watch. Minecraft, which is, for starters, nice German play on word names there, which is already cool, but has been very solid. My favorite player name of all time, other than maybe Sir Ice Cream, ooh, I'm fabulous, who is another player who I've known for the longest time, am a big fan of, and have played many games with. Like, probably him and Nanda and Bakery are the players I've played the most games with out of anyone.
Okay.
So very happy to see him doing well, but that's a full German team, so potential for an actual full German team to come in and maybe try compete against Team LiQuiD there, which is almost fully German.
Right.
Yeah, they have, what was it, 1 Bulgarian, right? That that keeps them from
being that full German team.
Exactly. So if Shizeisen would make it in, Cowdell's going to go all the bias.
Oh, yeah. There's no way he doesn't.
The German efficiency here.
I fully expect him to if they can get by. But then, all right, so the top 2, we have Bushido and Leftovers.
Yes.
Leftovers, I think, has an interesting story. So we're going to go to Bushido first, which is interesting to me because this is an open division team that a sponsor just said, you know, those guys, yeah, we're going to go ahead and sponsor them before they...
That is the argument for that is the organization is the Durham Brothers.
True.
So they basically sponsored themselves for this particular case. But as a recap, there is a huge reason why this team has so much attention behind it. And that is, for starters, you already have Ziku and Tix, who were consistently incredible throughout the last Open Division season. On 4K MMR average and more, I think Ziku was on at the time. They were consistently amazing. They were consistently stars. Then you have Gerd, part of the second Team LiQuiD lineup, who performed really well for a very long time, and a lot of those players are still currently in Open Division, including Chris and players like that. Then you jump to Lucifer and Vortex, who you can't really ignore in this team due to the fact that if you talk about the beginning of European Heroes of the Storm, it's basically one name, and that is Team LiQuiD.
Right.
Because they spent almost a year and a half just winning everything. Just not stopping, not slowing down. And with the Durham Brothers, Lucifer and Vortex, ex-Warcraft professionals, ex-Starcraft professionals, they have won European and World Championships in every game they have tried, Blizzard-wise, up to this point. They would love to get back into HGC and like top that as well, and just win another game. And just because at this point, if they do, I would probably consider them some of the best esports players that have ever existed. The ability to win 3 different games and be world class in all of them.
Wow, that's an endorsement right there.
They're good.
They are. No, they're definitely good.
Spanish Armada, right? Didn't they beat MVP Black at a PAX or something way back in the day?
They did. It was either PAX or no, it wasn't IM Shenzhen. Shenzhen was Virtus Pro, where trolling happened, and MVP Black abused the Zeratul bug, which is still one of my favorite bugs that ever happened. I don't know if you were watching that, but it was basically Zeratul used to be able to take Shadow Charge, MSI was the name of the tournament you're thinking of, by the way, which is a very fun tournament. But Zeratul used to be able to take Shadow Charge, target a minion to charge to it, and if he was quick enough to click on the minimap and target an enemy across the map, the charge speed would keep going, and he would charge all the way across the map to the second person he targeted. So he would go at like 2 times mount speed all the way across the map. So there's an amazing clip out there of MVP Black just playing, and you see Zeratul in top lane, and the casters don't notice it, because why would you look for something like that?
Right.
But you just see Zeratul on the minimap just go, boo, and just join up with his team. And it was great. But yeah, that's a good
Like
one.
a
And like I said,
homing
the old
missile.
Spanish Armada of Black Scorp, Falcon, Lucifer Vortex, and I can't Grand Paqueta.
Grand
Yes,
Paqueta, yeah.
Grand
Paqueta
Paqueta.
was on the team.
Yeah, made it were the old Spanish Armada, and they were the old unstoppable force. And with Falcon and Black Scorp both retired, the Durham brothers currently is Grand Paqueta holding like the banner for that old team. If the Durham brothers could make it in as well, that'd be pretty cool.
That would be pretty cool. But one last team, we have Leftovers, who
Yes, we do.
has like dominated.
They have. They were considered one of the favorites last season as well, and they also got to the semi-finals. It was them and Polska, and they weren't considered to be the team to get to the finals back then. It was very much more. Everyone was like, okay, there's going to be Zealots and more, and then Good Guy, and then Leftovers beat more, and
Yep.
then lost to Good Guys.
Yep.
And it was that situation of, oh my god, the favorite's been beaten. Now it's going to be Leftovers, right? Nope. Team Good Guys, or at that time, Team Gangang. And it was like double. That was a fantastic part of the bracket, 'cause that was double surprises, but it was once again the advantage of the single elim format. So Leftovers once again missed out barely.
Yeah.
Now they're back and they're in first, and they're looking way stronger. They look as strong as like Zealots looked last season. Last season it was very much almost out of the realm of possibility that Zealots did not go to the Crucible. Like, it would have had to be an insane performance by another team to beat them.
Right.
It's
right.
a very similar scenario here for Leftovers, where it's very unlikely that they do not go to Crucible. And if they do, it will make me quite happy. For starters, they currently have Mopsio as their team logo. Just a picture of Mopsio, which means if Zealots lose this next week and Playing Ducks win, the Zealots will also go to the Crucible, which means there's a chance of Mopsio having to play against his own face.
and that breaks me too, because I'm on non-open division. Zealots has impressed me the last couple of weeks.
Yeah,
I'd
they're
really
great.
like them not to.
Yeah,
Come drop down in.
I have personal reactions to all of them, though. I love Nanda. I love Chris. I
Right.
love Zealots. I love Grand Paqueta. I love those players. I even love Mopsio. If he could just hit mute
Right.
every
Just-
now and again.
Every
he
once in a
would
while,
be-
think about what you're saying, buddy.
Yes, exactly. And what you're doing as well.
Right.
Don't dance in the middle of the map. But
He
I
just
do
wanted a weekend
still-
off. That's what
Yeah.
that's what I mean.
Either way, once again, that's another point. Loba is from Leftovers. He came up to replace him and
Right.
performed very well, which shows the skill level is still relatively close there. But there's another reason that, for starters, Leftovers, like I would argue, they are currently the best team in Open Division. And I will again say, if they don't make it to the Crucible, it will be a shock and an upset and cool, but a surprise.
Right.
I would love to see them go through, because I want it to be represented by the team that I think is the best. And also, I made a bet and a prediction at the start that it would be Bushido and Leftovers. After the first cup, I made that prediction. So far, I'm doing okay.
That's looking pretty good right now.
Indeed.
Right.
There's
What'd you
another
put on the
reason-
line?
It was like just a drink.
Oh, that's not so bad. I'm waiting for the
No,
head
we
shave to come out.
don't do big money. We don't do big money things. But
Shave your head
there
like
is also there is a fairly obvious reason as to why it would be hilarious for Leftovers to make it to the Crucible that I'm sure you can probably work out. It is due to a player name.
Yes. Oh my god, I was just looking at this like 2 minutes ago, and now I forgot which one it was. Dota is better, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or as we call him, Hots is better. So that means that unless they just give him a free name change before the Crucible,
He'll be playing.
that's going to be on the main HGC Twitch channel, on the main Blizz Heroes Twitch channel.
That's
So
right.
they're gonna give it. They'll have to give him a
they'll
name
give him a
change.
change, yeah.
I'd be very surprised if they don't. But we actually asked them, because, like we said, Leftovers did so well last time, or 4K MMR, I can't remember which team he was on at the time.
Right.
But we asked them the last Crucible, and we were like, so yeah, there's this player called this. We've been handling it like this. Is that okay? And they were like, oh yeah, you're handling it amazingly. If he gets this far, we'll deal with it. But for now, it's
you're
all
doing
good.
it good.
So yeah, for now, he is Hots is better, as everyone can. That is what we all call him.
Yeah, no, I mean, that all of the teams are amazing, to be honest. I think I've caught games at least of the top 5 without fail.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's usually, who you and Grubby follow is pretty much all I can watch. And everyone,
We try to keep it varied, but
you guys do a good job of it, right?
Miss people sometimes.
Right. I mean, that's another difference we have in EU versus NA. So in NA, we have Jake and Jayhow usually cast the mainstream, but then there's probably half a dozen English casters out there casting other streams with other branches.
Got like a Cavalier Guest or something.
Cavalier Guest does it. Haloran does it.
Halloran, Hero Physio. There's a bunch, and there's more than that. We're missing people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas in Europe, we have one English stream, and then all the foreign language streams, which is amazing for starters. It is the fact that we get all these languages, and we've got a clean feed set up so that we don't force anyone out. So it's all set up very, very professionally. So big fan.
Every once, so
awesome.
I did leave myself off the list only because I haven't cast any NA game. Well, only the first cup this season or this phase. But every once in a while, I grab the clean feed just for funds. Because I'm in the EU caster channel like the NA one because they didn't separate it.
Yeah.
So it's fun just to like every once in a while I'll pop it up and I'll be like, okay, there's no talking. It's literally just the game.
Yeah. Just games, just focus.
Right. So it's fun to watch a clean feed every once in a while too. But no, you guys have done an incredible job covering it this season. And and last season actually.
Yeah. It's been a joy. The last final was the only day I've missed throughout the entire thing, and I'm devastated that I did because it seemed like it was a blast. Internet issues, dude.
Yeah, dude. Thankfully they got fixed though, and you have internet back. I mean,
true. Yes, but the fact it went down at all is still irritating.
Right.
But yep, either way, it's been fantastic to follow it all the way through. So I've had a blast doing it, and I can't wait to do it again next season if they have me back.
Oh, I'm sure they will. I can't see them not. You guys are like the face of the EU division. You and your it was
Grubby is the face. I'm the JPEG.
You're the JPEG.
Animated GIF.
I like the animated GIF one where he's got your head mounts, and that made me laugh a couple of times.
Yeah, they both him and Kendrick keep doing that. They keep trolling with me. Grubby made Canadian Tetcher.
Yep.
With the South Park Canadian style, which is brilliant.
That was my favorite one.
Too funny.
Kendrick keeps putting wasps on me. Due to I have so far been, while casting, attacked by multiple wasps, bees, and a magpie. Those are the things that have entered my room. My window was open because it was hot. The magpie entered my room, freaked out for a couple seconds, and then left my room. So
the magpie is the one I didn't know about. The rest of them I remember hearing about.
That did happen. But Kendrick added wasps to me at one point. He's currently got me blinking, which is immensely creepy. It is horribly creepy. I actually suggest it. I personally think he's done it too often. He set it up so it blinks like every 10 seconds. I personally thought it should blink like every minute. So it happens and people are like,
did I just see that?
Yeah, exactly. You want people to question their own sanity. That's the true meaning of esports.
Well, I had so usually when I'm at home and I'm watching it, my monitors, I put it on the TV and the monitors are just high enough that I can't quite see your entire image. So I have to like every once in a while I sit straight up so I can peek over it and see what he's got you doing. So, but it's been immensely satisfying to watch.
Yeah, he usually leaves it alone. Oh, I've been put in stasis a couple times or stopped. I can't remember what it is at the moment. They keep changing it.
No, it's been fun, and they do something. It's always fun to watch. All right,
yeah,
I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Okay.
If you have to pick, and we'll all pick 2 teams, but if you have to pick 2 teams that make it through, what are the 2 teams?
Leftovers and Bushido eSports.
Okay.
I stick with my guns. That's the bet I made at the start. That's where I stick.
And that's where you're staying? All right. All right, Bahgz, you're up.
I'm going the same way, just because consistency. I mean, you can look at the standings. Bushido's 1-2, made it to 2 other semifinals. Leftovers has like been there every single time,
right.
And won 3 of them. So I'm gonna go the same way, Leftover and Bushido. It's tempting to go run it down because of the got former members of B Genius on there, but
run it down and always Lucky are definitely very close for me. Any team can do it,
right?
But Bushido eSports are just pitting out Run It Down and Always Lucky to me.
And the beautiful thing of this cup versus last season's cup, well, I guess we can say last phase's cup, is it's double elim this time around. So
exactly.
there's a little bit of insurance there.
It's also over 3 days, so
yes,
it's it's going to be a much better run tournament.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. And I hate to say this because it sounds like I'm just following on, but I actually believe the same way. I think it's going to be leftovers in Bushido. I actually said Bushido would do well after the second cup. I have always been along the lines of leftovers is going to take it the whole way, but it was cup number 2, I think, where I started talking about right after they got sponsored by Bushido, which I feel like was cup 2. It's been a long time.
They were always Bushido, I'm pretty sure.
Were they? I thought they were.
I'm pretty sure they were because they were scrimming under that. But even when they had LOL on the team, because before they actually entered, it was like the Durham Brothers and LOL, which is another member of the old Team LiQuiuD lineup.
No, you're right. You're right. But it had to be around Cup 2 where I started talking about Bushido. I'll go through my notes. I can figure that out. But I do agree that it's probably those same 2. And then, so after the playoffs, can we get you back? We'll go over Crucible. We should know who the bottom 2 are at that point, too.
There's a good chance I will be in America, so time zones will actually match up a little bit better. Due to the fact that I'm staying both a little bit before and after Crucible.
Okay.
I'll be in America for. So if I have the time, I'll definitely, and my hotel has decent internet, I'm more than happy to come back on.
Awesome. We'd love to have you. So other than with Grubby and with Kendrick Swish, when you guys are casting HGC China, where can people find you? Or where's the best place to find you, rather?
Very few places, actually, because once again, I can't stream and I haven't been making YouTube due to the whole thing with YouTube as a general platform in general to actually make content on. So as such, right now, I'm very much just focusing on casting everything I can. So you should head to twitch.tv/follow-grubby, and you should head to twitch.tv/Kendrick Swish, and you should hit the follow button. And if you on both of those, and if you have a Prime subscription or some money laying around, you should hit the subscribe button on one or both of those. I would thoroughly recommend it because, quite frankly, they're amazing. But if you do want to follow my goings on and my adventures outside of esports, and of course when I go to events, Twitter is probably the best place at Tetcher, where I also am going to be documenting my journey into attempting to become a voice actor, which I'm doing, and also once more stuff is sorted out, potential game development. Nothing that competes with Blizzard, in case there are any in the chat right now.
That's still pretty cool,
awesome.
though. So good luck with both of those. And
Thank you.
Obviously, we both follow you on Twitter, so it'll be interesting to watch as you go through that journey. So good luck.
Thank you very much. I enjoy the show. I was glad to come on.
Thank you for coming on. And yeah, we'll definitely have to schedule something going into the Crucible just so we can get your thoughts on bottom 2 versus top 2 and see how that's going to go.
Sounds good. Sounds like it's going to be fun. I'm excited to see who is in the Crucible.
I can't wait to see the playoffs. Just the 3-day playoffs with the double elimination. Like at the end of the last split, and the way. Look, I like BKB a lot. Team good guys fought their way through and they won, and that's the kudos. But like watching that and watching NA, it was very much like this is not how this should go. Top 8 double elimination, I feel, is a much better system. Just because you get those teams that, like, we did one cup, we had just enough points to get, and we squeaked through because it's top 16. Like,
if that was the system, though, we wouldn't have had Team Good Guys.
That's true.
And the team that actually made it into HGC wouldn't have done it. So there's the question: which
is really better?
One is better? It does reward stability, which is definitely what the scene needs. So I am down with this system, the one we're currently using.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree, and that's why I'm happy to see the new system. Right, I do agree with you. If we didn't have that old system in place, Team Good Guys and possibly even Zealots might not even be there. Right? Who knows what would have happened on the path to
double elim?
Right.
That anyone could have come back.
Exactly. So, but thanks for coming on the show, and thank you everybody that watched us live. We are going to end here because we're just doing a special little kind of EU Open Division playoff preview. Everybody have a wonderful evening.